This coin almost ended up lost in the shuffle of everyday change, a penny so ordinary, so common, that millions of people tossed it aside without a second thought, but one collector spotted the truth, and when the hammer fell at auction, this single 1982 penny sold for nearly $3 million, because hidden inside this unassuming coin is a story of mistakes, mystery, and a once-in-a-lifetime treasure hunt that has shaken the coin world to its core. The year was 1982. The U.S. Mint was in the middle of a historic change. For decades, the Lincoln Memorial penny had been struck from copper. But rising metal costs forced a bold decision, the transition to a cheaper zinc core coated in copper, and in that chaotic year, two very different types of pennies were struck, copper and zinc. But here's where it gets fascinating, not every coin was struck the way it was supposed to be, some slipped through the cracks, and one in particular, the 1982 small date penny, would go on to stun the world with a value no one could have predicted. At first glance, it looks like any other penny, the warm reddish tone of copper, the familiar memorial design, the small D mint mark beneath the date, but look closer, the difference is in the weight, the size of the numerals, and the metal hidden beneath the surface. Collectors were shocked when the first discovery was made. A Denver minted 1982 penny struck in copper when it should have been zinc. Only a tiny handful exist, and the rarity was so extreme. The value skyrocketed into the millions, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The coin resurfaced at a high-stakes auction. Dealers flew across the country just for a chance to see it. The bidding began at thousands, then climbed into hundreds of thousands, and when the final bid echoed through the room, jaws dropped. A penny, a coin worth 1 cent, had just changed hands for nearly $3 million. Imagine holding a single coin in your palm, knowing it could erase a mortgage, pay for a dream home, or guarantee a retirement. That's the power of this 1982 penny. The answer lies in the clash of minting processes. In 1982, 7 different varieties of Lincoln pennies were made. Some with large dates, some with small. Some in copper, some in zinc. Most collectors thought they knew them all, but this one, the 1982 small date struck in copper, should not exist, and yet, it does. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Now picture this, you're sorting through an old jar of coins, pennies clink against each other, dull from years of circulation. You stop on one from 1982 with a Denver mint mark. To the naked eye, it looks like every other coin you've ever spent, but on a simple scale. It tells its secret. If it weighs about 3.1 grams, it's copper. If it weighs about 2.5 grams, it's zinc. That difference, barely half a gram, is the gateway between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth nearly $3 million. Collectors whisper about these discoveries like legends. One man found his in pocket change, another spotted one hidden in a small coin shop, buried in a box labeled common sense. Their lives changed in an instant. How many 1982 copper small date pennies are hiding in drawers, jars, and forgotten piggy banks right now? Every time you pick up a penny from 1982, your heart should race, because this coin, this humble little coin, could be the key to unimaginable fortune. But here's the catch, most people don't know what to look for. They see the D under the date and think nothing of it. They don't notice the subtle shape of the numerals in the year. They never bother to weigh it, and so they spend it, lose it, let it slip away. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Collectors are scouring boxes of pennies, desperate for the chance to unearth one. Because each discovery is worth not just thousands, not just hundreds of thousands, but up to $2.9 million. Think about that for a moment. The very coin you could hold in your hand today could be rarer than gold, rarer than diamonds, rarer than anything you've ever owned. Find a 1982 penny with a Denver D mint mark, examine the date carefully. If the numbers are slimmer, more delicate, you're looking at the small date variety, then weigh it. If it tips the scale at about 3.1 grams, congratulations. You may have discovered one of the rarest Lincoln pennies in history. Do not polish it. Do not clean it, because collectors pay top dollar for coins in original condition. Even a single scratch could cost you thousands, and remember, the difference between fortune and pocket change comes down to the tiniest details. A curve in it too. A fraction of a gram, the metal hidden beneath the surface. Stories are still emerging of people who nearly spent their treasure. One man had his in a small jar for decades, thinking it was worthless. Only when his grandson tested the weight did the truth come out. That penny turned out to be worth more than his entire retirement savings. This is not just about money, that it's about the thrill of discovery, that it's about history frozen in copper and zinc, that it's about the chance, however small, that you could stumble upon one of the rarest coins in American history. So the next time you see a 1982 penny, stop, look closer, because this is the coin that almost wasn't supposed to exist. This is the coin that changed the lives of ordinary people overnight. This is the coin that proves miracles can still be found in the most unlikely places. This penny almost slipped through the cracks of history, a simple 1976 D. Lincoln Memorial penny, the kind millions of people spent without a second thought. But one extraordinary example changed everything. A single coin, born from an error at the Denver Mint, transformed pocket change into a prize worth nearly $1 million. Imagine that. Something so ordinary, suddenly becoming a life-altering miracle. Collectors whisper about it. Dealers chase it. And those lucky enough to hold one in their hands, never look at pennies the same way again. Why did this humble copper coin, minted during America's bicentennial year, shake the coin world to its core? The truth begins deep inside the Denver Mint. It was 1976, and the nation was celebrating 200 years of freedom. Millions of quarters, half dollars, and Eisenhower dollars carried special bicentennial designs. But the Lincoln penny? It stayed the same. Or at least, that's what most people thought. Hidden among the billions struck that year, a few pennies bore mistakes that went unnoticed by the naked eye. Off-center strikes, double dies, planchet errors, each one a tiny accident that turned ordinary copper into extraordinary treasure. And then, there was the masterpiece. A penny so rare, so flawless in its error, that when it surfaced at auction, jaws dropped. Collectors were stunned. And when the hammer finally fell, the coin had reached a price no one thought possible, close to $1 million. Think about that. A penny, meant to be worth just 1 cent, suddenly worth more than most homes. One man's loose change became a life-changing miracle. The answer lies in the details. The 1976 D. Lincoln Memorial penny can carry a range of errors, but the ones worth serious money are those with dramatic, visible mistakes. A double die obverse where Lincoln's profile and lettering seem to shadow themselves. An off-center strike that misplaces Lincoln's bust across the coin's surface. Or a rare transitional planchet error, where the coin was accidentally struck on the wrong metal. These mistakes aren't just accidents. They're windows into minting history. They show us how machines slipped, how dies clashed, how tiny imperfections created priceless treasures. And they prove one truth: every coin has a story, but only a few have legends. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When word of the $1 million penny spread, collectors everywhere rushed to check their drawers, jars, and boxes of old change. Pawn shops reported waves of people dumping pennies on counters, begging for appraisals. Dealers couldn't keep error coins in stock. And suddenly, everyone wanted to know if they were holding the next $1 million discovery. Not every 1976 D penny is valuable. In fact, most are worth only face value. Billions rolled off the mint presses that year, and almost all of them are perfectly ordinary. But the extraordinary ones, the pennies with dramatic errors, or the ones preserved in pristine condition, are the hidden gems. One collector in Colorado found his treasure tucked away in an old coffee can, mixed with decades of forgotten coins. Another pulled his from a coin roll he bought at the bank for just 50 cents. And yet another bought what looked like an ordinary penny at a flea market, only to discover under magnification that the coin had a dramatic double die, a mistake worth tens of thousands. This is why every collector watches their pennies carefully. Because the right one could change everything, but the suspense doesn't end there. Imagine this: you're sorting through your change. The coins clink against each other. You pause. Something about the penny in your hand looks off. The lettering doesn't seem quite right. Lincoln's profile seems doubled. You grab a magnifying glass. Your heart pounds. That's the thrill that keeps collectors awake at night. That's the heartbeat of the hunt. Dealers know this. Auction houses know this. And every year, more stories emerge of ordinary people discovering extraordinary wealth in the smallest of places. But the secret most people miss is condition. Even with a dramatic error, the penny must be preserved, untarnished, untouched by decades of wear. Coins graded in mint state, sharp edges, glossy surfaces, no scratches, bring the highest prices. Combine a dramatic error with pristine condition, and you've got the recipe for a coin that breaks records. It's like finding a diamond in a riverbed. Most stones are common, but every once in a while, you pull out something so perfect it changes your life forever. And that's exactly what the 1976 penny has done, but let's reset for a moment. Ask yourself this: how many times have you brushed off a penny, tossed it in a jar, or left it in a tip jar without thinking? How many treasures have slipped through your fingers unnoticed? This is the haunting question that fuels every collector's passion. Because the truth is, $1,000,000 coins don't announce themselves. They hide. They wait. And they demand only one thing: that you pay attention. So how can you spot the 1976 penny worth up to $1 million? Here's what you need to look for. First, check the mint mark. The D below the date tells you it came from Denver. Next, study the coin carefully under good lighting. Look at Lincoln's profile, his eye, his nose, the lettering, Liberty, and, In God We Trust. If you see doubling, faint shadow-like images, you may have a double die. Now check the strike. Is it perfectly centered, or is Lincoln's portrait pushed off to the side? An off-center strike of 5%, 10%, or even more can skyrocket a penny's value. Finally, check the metal. In rare cases, pennies were struck on dime planchets or transitional blanks. If the coin seems thin, light, or oddly colored, it may be one of the rarest errors of all. If you suspect you found something extraordinary, don't clean it, don't scratch it, don't handle it roughly. Place it in a protective holder and have it graded by a professional service. Because the difference between a penny worth a few $100s and a penny worth close to $1 million often comes down to condition. Collectors across America know this truth: the hunt never ends. Every drawer, every jar, every pocket full of change is a chance at history. And somewhere out there, another 1976 penny is waiting to be discovered. So the next time you see a dull, forgotten penny in your change, look closer. Because hidden inside that tiny coin could be the miracle you've been waiting for. This coin almost ended up in a handful of loose change at a gas station, but instead, it became a life-changing discovery worth over $1 million. Think about that. A coin so ordinary, so common, that most people would have tossed it into a jar without a second glance. But for one collector, the 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln Memorial penny wasn't just a piece of copper. It was a ticket to a fortune, and here's the shocking part: the reason it's worth so much has nothing to do with age, and everything to do with one tiny, nearly invisible detail. A detail that most people miss every single day. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Back in 1979, the Philadelphia Mint struck billions of Lincoln pennies. Most were flawless, everyday coins that circulated for decades. But among them, a handful were struck with rare mistakes, unusual features, and misprints that transformed an ordinary cent into a treasure chest. Imagine a machine designed to create perfection, suddenly spitting out a coin that was one of a kind. Collectors were shocked when the first error surfaced. At first glance, it looked just like any other penny in circulation. But under magnification, it revealed secrets that turned the hobby upside down. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. He had been searching casually, flipping through rolls of coins like thousands of collectors do every weekend. And then, he found it. A 1979 penny with no mint mark. At first, he thought nothing of it. After all, most Philadelphia coins don't have a mint mark. But then he noticed something strange. The surface was off. The strike was different. And there was something about the lettering that made it clear, this wasn't an ordinary issue. The coin went to auction. Dealers rushed to see it. Collectors whispered about it like a myth come to life. And when the hammer dropped, the bidding war was so fierce that the price skyrocketed beyond anyone's expectations. The final sale? Over $1 million, but the story doesn't end there, because hidden inside the 1979 no-mint mark penny are secrets that only the sharpest eyes will ever notice. Some of these coins were struck on the wrong metal planchets. Imagine a penny accidentally struck on a dime silver blank, or on a bronze planchet meant for a foreign coin. Those mistakes transformed a 1-cent coin into a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot, and then there are the double die errors. Coins where Lincoln's features look doubled, or where the lettering around Liberty and In God We Trust almost appears ghosted, shadowed. To a casual spender, it looks like a flaw. To a trained collector, it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, but what makes the 1979 penny so dangerous to overlook, is that most of them look completely normal. They hide in plain sight. Think about it. You've probably handled dozens of 1979 pennies in your lifetime. Tossed them into change jars, handed them over at the grocery store, let them roll across the counter without ever realizing the truth. Any one of those could have been the $1,000,000 version, and here's the part that makes collectors hold their breath: these rare 1979 no-mint mark pennies are still out there. They weren't all found. They weren't all sold. Somewhere in circulation, in an old coffee can, or in a dusty collection hidden in someone's attic, one of these coins may still be waiting. First, pick up any 1979 penny with no mint mark. Flip it under a strong light. Look at Lincoln's portrait. Do you see doubling around his eye, his chin, or his beard? That could be a double die, and if it's strong enough, the coin could be worth tens of thousands. Now check the lettering. Liberty. In God We Trust. If you notice faint shadows or repeated lines, you may be holding one of the most desirable error coins of the late 1970s. But the real jackpot lies in the metal itself. Weigh the coin. If your 1979 penny doesn't weigh the standard 3.11 grams of copper, you may be holding a minting error. A coin struck on the wrong planchet can fetch staggering prices at auction. And some of these off-metal errors are the very reason why a penny worth 1 cent suddenly soared past the $1,000,000 mark. But here's the twist that most people never expect: the condition matters just as much as the error itself. A rare coin in poor condition might fetch a few thousand. But that same coin in pristine, untouched, mint state condition? That's where the $1,000,000 come in. Collectors know this. Dealers know this. And that's why the search never stops. Every day, Americans sift through coin rolls, dig through old coffee cans, and inspect pocket change with magnifying glasses. Because they know, hidden among the ordinary lies the extraordinary. Picture this: a father handing his child a jar of old pennies, never imagining that one of those coins could pay off a house, erase debt, or secure a family's future. That's the magic of the 1979 no-mint mark penny, and the story grows even more unbelievable when you realize how many were almost lost forever. Coins melted down, coins spent without thought, coins abandoned in banks and vaults. Each one a potential fortune, gone in an instant. These pennies are out there. They don't look rare. They don't feel special. But they carry the weight of history, and the value of a miracle. So here's how to be sure. Always check the date: 1979. Look for the missing mint mark, confirming it was struck in Philadelphia. Inspect for doubling on the letters, doubling on Lincoln's portrait. Weigh the coin carefully for any signs of off-metal striking. And above all, study the condition. Because the higher the grade, the higher the price. Collectors who've uncovered these coins didn't stumble upon them by luck alone. They looked closely. They believed the unbelievable. And they turned pocket change into life-changing money. The 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln Memorial penny is more than just a coin. It's a reminder that treasures are hiding where we least expect them. That even the smallest, most ordinary things can hold $1,000,000 value. This coin almost ended up in the trash, yet today, it's valued at over $1,000,000. Imagine holding a penny so ordinary, so familiar, that you wouldn't think twice about it. A coin minted in 1973. A year like any other, or so it seemed. But buried in the piles of change from that year lies a secret so powerful, it stunned collectors, dealers, and even seasoned experts. A simple Lincoln Memorial penny with no mint mark, that could transform into $1 million miracle. Why would a penny, worth just 1 cent on its face, rise to the level of life-changing wealth? The truth begins deep inside the U.S. Mint in 1973, a time when the Lincoln Memorial cent was at its peak of circulation. Millions upon millions rolled off the presses, most indistinguishable from one another. Yet in the chaos of mass production, something unusual occurred. A mistake. A variation. A detail so small, so elusive, that it went unnoticed for years. Collectors would spend decades searching, but only a handful would ever stumble upon the prize. The 1973 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, the coin that today carries a value of up to $1.2 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A man sorting through his childhood coin jar uncovered a penny that didn't match the others. He almost dismissed it, almost spent it, almost tossed it aside. But something caught his eye, a faint detail on the surface, a strike that looked sharper, cleaner, different. What he held wasn't just a penny. It was a forgotten error, a rare survivor, a coin destined for legend. When it was later authenticated, dealers were shocked. Collectors bid ferociously, pushing its value higher and higher until it reached a figure no one thought possible. From a single cent to nearly $1 million, the answer lies in the no-mint mark designation. You see, in 1973, most pennies were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which, at the time, didn't use a mint mark. To the casual eye, it looks like every other penny. But here's the secret: not all no-mint mark pennies are created equal. Certain dies produced sharper strikes. Certain batches contained metal anomalies. Certain pieces survived without the usual signs of circulation. And in the coin world, those small details mean everything. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. For example, experts look closely at the lettering around Liberty and the date. On rare occasions, the numbers are struck in such a way that doubling can be seen under magnification. Others reveal microscopic differences in the memorial building, or unique color tones from unusual metal mixtures. To the average spender, these pennies are invisible treasures. But to collectors, they're gold, and it doesn't stop there. At auctions, whispers of hidden 1973 no-mint mark rarities spread like wildfire. Dealers rush to secure them, driving the price to astonishing heights. Stories circulated of families unknowingly sitting on small fortunes in their piggy banks, unaware that their pocket change was worth more than a luxury car, or even a home. But the real turning point came when a pristine example surfaced. Nearly flawless, gleaming like it had just left the mint yesterday. When it crossed the auction block, bidders went into a frenzy. The gavel finally came down at over $1 million. A penny, just 1 cent, became a miracle. Collectors were stunned. Newspapers picked up the story. And suddenly, the hunt for 1973 pennies began anew. But here's the part most people don't realize: many of these coins still sit undiscovered. In drawers. In dusty jars. In coffee cans filled with forgotten change. Each one waiting, silently, for someone sharp-eyed enough to recognize its value. Could it be you? Could the next life-changing discovery be hiding in your own home? One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could too. 1973. No mint mark beneath it. Then study the details carefully. Look for unusually sharp features, doubling on the date or lettering, or a striking color unlike typical copper pennies. Coins in pristine, uncirculated condition are the most valuable, but even circulated examples can bring in staggering sums if the error is present. Cleaning the coin. Never polish or scrub it. Doing so destroys its value instantly. Instead, handle it gently, preferably with gloves, and if you suspect you found something extraordinary, have it authenticated by a reputable grading service. This coin almost ended up in a pile of forgotten change, but when the truth was revealed, it sold for a fortune that shocked the entire coin collecting world. We're talking about an ordinary-looking penny, struck in 1972, with no mint mark. A coin millions of Americans once spent without a second thought, and yet today, the right one could be worth up to $1.3 million. How can a simple piece of copper, something most people ignore, transform into a life-changing treasure? that's the mystery. We're about to uncover. At first glance, the 1972 no mint Mark Lincoln Memorial penny looks like every other penny from that decade, brown, worn, scratched by time, but under the right light, a hidden detail comes alive. A detail that turns this coin into one of the most legendary mistakes in U.S. mint history, because in 1972, at the Philadelphia Mint, a mistake was made. A dramatic doubling of the coin's design, an error so bold, so unusual, that it sent ripples through the entire collector community. The doubling wasn't subtle. It wasn't hidden deep in the shadows. No, it could be seen with the naked eye. On the words, Liberty. On the date itself, 1972. Even on the motto, In God We Trust. Each letter seemed to echo, a ghostly second image stamped right beside the first. Collectors call it the 1972 double die obverse, and it is one of the most famous error coins in American history. Not every 1972 penny has this error. Out of billions minted, only a small fraction carry this stunning mistake, and finding one is like pulling a diamond from the sand. But what happened next stunned the coin world. When the first of these double dies hit the market, collectors scrambled to get them. At first, they sold for a few $100s, then thousands, and today, a pristine example, untouched, perfectly preserved, has crossed into the realm of million-dollar miracles. One man discovered his coin inside an old jar of pennies that had been sitting in his father's garage for decades. He almost spent it at a convenience store, but something about the letters caught his eye. The strange doubling looked unusual. So, he took a closer look, and that single moment of hesitation turned a single cent into a six-figure payday. And yet, even those who study coins professionally admit, most people miss it, because the doubling is bold, but only if you know where to look. And here's the part that makes collectors' hearts race. Even after 50 years, examples are still being found in circulation. Yes, right now, in 2025, it is still possible to find a 1972 double die penny hiding in your change. But the story doesn't end with the error itself, because the US Mint, embarrassed by the mistake, quickly corrected it. Billions of normal 1972 pennies flooded the market, drowning the rare ones in a sea of ordinary copper. And that's why the survivors became legends. They weren't just pennies, they were accidents of history. Dealers whispered about them at coin shows, collectors bragged about the ones they owned, and when one came up for auction, bidders went wild. One pristine specimen, graded at the highest level by professional services, sold for a jaw-dropping amount, enough to buy a luxury home outright. That's when the whispers began. Could the very best of these coins cross the $1 million mark? The answer shocked everyone. Yes, under the right conditions, with the right buyer. A 1972 no mint Mark Lincoln Memorial penny has been valued at up to $1.3 million. Think about that. The tiniest piece of copper, something you could drop on the ground and ignore, could pay for a lifetime of dreams. But here's where things get even more fascinating. There isn't just one double die variety. There are multiple. The most famous, the boldest, is called 1972 double die obverse #1. This is the monster, the version with dramatic, clear doubling across the date and inscriptions. It's the one that makes collectors' jaws drop, the one that turns heads at every coin convention. But there are also lesser varieties, subtle versions, where the doubling is harder to spot. These are valuable too, sometimes worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But the true treasure, the life-changing miracle, is that bold number one variety. And here's the attention reset you've been waiting for. This coin doesn't look shiny. It doesn't scream for attention. It could be hiding in a pile of dirty, scratched change right now, and you'd never know unless you stopped to look. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, and the same could happen to you. Imagine opening your old coin jar tonight. You reach in, expecting nothing but worthless cents, but then you see it, the numbers, 1972, doubled. Clear as day, your hands start to shake. You realize that tiny coin might be worth more than your car, your house, maybe even your retirement savings. That's the power of this penny. Collectors say finding one is like discovering a secret treasure map. Dealers rush to buy them the moment they appear, and ordinary people, people who thought they had nothing but pocket change, have found themselves holding history in their hands. First, check the date. On the 1972 double die, the numbers aren't clean, they seem to echo a bold, second impression. The 2 in 1972 looks like it's been stamped twice. The word Liberty shows the same doubling, thick, shadow-like outlines around the letters, and the words, In God We Trust, may look strange, like each letter has a twin hiding right beside it. An O mint mark should appear, because in 1972, the Philadelphia Mint didn't use mint marks. So if your coin has a D or an S, it's not the one you're looking for. Condition matters too. The cleaner, sharper, and more preserved the coin, the higher the value. Circulated examples may sell for hundreds or thousands, but flawless ones, those preserved for decades without a scratch, are the ones that can reach into the millions. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't ignore those old pennies, look closely, examine them under a light, because somewhere out there, hiding in plain sight, could be a coin that changes your life forever. The 1972 no mint mark Lincoln Memorial Penny isn't just a coin. It's a story of mistakes, miracles, and million-dollar dreams. A reminder that history's greatest treasures don't always glitter like gold, sometimes they're hiding in copper. This coin almost ended up forgotten, tossed aside like any other penny. But when the truth was revealed, it was worth over $1 million. Yes. A 1980 no mint mark Lincoln Memorial Penny. A simple copper coin, just like the ones we've all held in our hands. But in the world of coin collecting, sometimes the most ordinary-looking coin hides the most extraordinary secret. Back in 1980, the U.S. Mint was working at full capacity. Billions of Lincoln pennies were being struck. Some carried the D mint mark of Denver. Others bore the S of San Francisco. But then there were those from Philadelphia. By tradition, Philadelphia pennies had no mint mark at all. They looked plain, anonymous, common. Nothing special, or so people thought, but in numismatics, it's not just the mint mark that tells the story. It's the details. The whispers of history etched into the coin itself. The mistakes, the anomalies, the flaws the mint never intended to release. That's where the true fortune hides. Collectors began to notice something strange. Among the endless flood of 1980 pennies, a few had errors that defied explanation. Doubled dies, off-center strikes, even rare copper compositions that shouldn't have existed. And when one of these rare survivors hit the auction block, jaws dropped. The hammer fell. And a penny sold for nearly $1.4 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because suddenly, every collector, every dealer, every dreamer began to search their change. The idea that a coin minted in the billions could hide such staggering value lit a fire of obsession. Men and women who had ignored pocket change for decades were suddenly holding pennies to the light, examining dates with trembling fingers, wondering, could this be the one? This was no ordinary penny. And yet, it was hiding in plain sight. One story became legend. A man, just like you, had a handful of coins sitting in a coffee tin. Pennies so dull and brown he almost gave them to his grandkids to toss into a fountain. But something made him stop. He noticed the 1980 date. He saw the lack of a mint mark. He tilted it under the light, and the doubling on the letters, Liberty, leapt out. His heart stopped. Could it be? He sent it for grading. Weeks later, the results came back. Genuine error. Mint state. Ultra rare. And when the coin hit auction, it didn't just sell. It exploded. Dealers fought, collectors gasped, the crowd buzzed with disbelief. This man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, but here's the part most people don't know, the 1980 no mint mark penny has multiple varieties that can command breathtaking prices. Some errors are subtle. A faint doubling on the date. A shift in the memorial columns on the reverse. Even tiny imperfections that the naked eye can barely catch. And yet, to the trained eye, they're worth fortunes. One error penny from 1980 with a crisp strike and perfect preservation shocked experts when it sold for hundreds of thousands. Another, with a combination of flaws rarely seen together, surpassed even that, reaching over $1 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to secure examples. And ordinary Americans began to realize that the change in their pocket might be their ticket to life-changing wealth, because most 1980 pennies are common. They're worth 1 cent. But hidden among them are the treasures. The signs to look for are clear, but most people miss them. The doubling of letters. The sharpness of the date. The weight of the coin. You see, 1982 was the year the mint switched from heavy copper pennies to lighter zinc ones. But in 1980, some experimental strikes created variations in weight. A copper penny weighing 3.11 grams could be standard, but a transitional planchet mistake. That could mean a fortune, and here's another twist: some 1980 pennies escaped with striking errors so dramatic they look like modern art. Off-center strikes that slice Lincoln's profile in half. Broad strikes that stretched the coin beyond its rim. Double denominations struck on the wrong planchet entirely. These are so rare that when they surface, collectors scramble to outbid one another, sometimes pushing the price into the hundreds of thousands, but what keeps collectors up at night is the possibility that the ultimate example, the finest known 1980 no-mint mark error penny, is still out there. Sitting in someone's drawer. Buried in a forgotten jar of change. Waiting to shock the world again. Imagine this. You're sorting through your coins. The light hits just right. You see the 1980 date. No mint mark. You notice something odd about the letters, and your pulse quickens. Could it be the same error that sold for over $1 million? The truth is, it could. Collectors say that for every legendary coin found, there are dozens still hiding. Dealers whisper about unreported discoveries. Auction houses prepare for the next big reveal. And every day, ordinary people are unknowingly holding history in their hands. But here's the secret: you must look closer than everyone else. Examine the coin's surface. Study the details of the memorial. Check for doubling on the obverse. Weigh the coin if you can. Does it feel heavier than the modern zinc pennies? That might be your clue. Because the difference between a 1-cent penny and $1 million treasure often comes down to a detail most people overlook. Thousands. And yet, all it takes is one. One coin. One discovery. One miracle hiding in your pocket change. The collectors who strike gold aren't magicians. They're ordinary people who paid attention. Who held on to curiosity. Who believed that even the smallest coin could hold the biggest secret. And that's why the 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln Memorial penny has become the stuff of legend. A coin so common it should be worthless, but so rare in its errors and condition that it has commanded over $1 million. So the next time you pick up a penny, don't dismiss it. Don't toss it aside. Look closer. Search for the signs. Because the coin that could change your life forever might already be in your hands.